You check your phone. Nothing. You wrote the perfect text, sent it 4 hours ago, and there is that one gray check mark just sitting there, mocking you like it has a personality. And then it happens. That feeling. Not sadness exactly, not anger, something colder. Literally colder. Your hands feel a little chilly. Your chest feels hollow, like someone opened a window somewhere inside you. You tell yourself you're being dramatic. You are not being dramatic. Your body temperature might have actually just dropped. Not figuratively, not as a metaphor for feeling emotionally distant. Your actual skin temperature, measured with an actual thermometer, drops when you feel socially rejected. Scientists have watched it happen in a lab, and once you understand why, you'll never look at the phrase cold shoulder the same way again. Let's start with what's actually being measured here, because this isn't vibes, this is data. Researchers can track skin temperature with sensors small enough to tape to a fingertip. Nothing invasive, nothing dramatic, just a tiny thermistor reading your skin in real time while you sit there doing normal human things. And what they found is that certain emotional states show up on that sensor as clearly as if you'd stepped outside without a jacket. The most well-known version of this research uses something called Cyberball. It sounds like an extreme sport. It's actually a deceptively simple computer game. You're told you're playing catch with 2 other people online. You are not. They're not real. It's a program. For a minute or 2, the ball gets thrown to you normally. Then, without warning, it just stops. The 2 other players keep throwing to each other and completely ignore you. That's it. That's the whole experiment. No insults, no drama, just being quietly left out of a game of catch with people who don't even exist. And here's the part that should stop you for a second. Researcher Hans Eidermann and colleagues ran exactly this setup and measured finger temperature before, during, and after. The excluded participants showed a measurable drop in finger temperature compared to people who kept getting the ball. Being ignored by fictional strangers in a fake game was enough to physically cool down real human skin. Your nervous system did not check whether the threat was real before it reacted. So here's what's actually stranger than the temperature drop itself. Why would your brain respond to social exclusion with anything related to cold at all? Being ignored in a video game has nothing to do with being cold, except to your brain, running on code that is hundreds of thousands of years old, it kind of does. For most of human history, being cast out of the group wasn't an awkward inconvenience. It was a death sentence, and often a literal cold one. No group meant no shared fire, no shared shelter, no shared body heat at night, no one to help you if you got hurt or sick. Being excluded and being physically exposed to the elements were, for tens of thousands of years, basically the same event happening at the same time. Your ancestors who felt nothing when the group pulled away from them didn't survive long enough to have descendants. The ones who felt something, an urgent, uncomfortable, impossible to ignore signal, went and fixed their relationship, rejoined the group, and lived. You are descended entirely from people whose bodies screamed at them the moment social distance opened up. This is where it gets genuinely wild from a neuroscience standpoint. Brain imaging studies, including work by Naomi Eisenberger and Matthew Lieberman at UCLA, found that social rejection activates the anterior cingulate cortex, a brain region that also activates during physical pain, not a similar region, overlapping circuitry. Your brain did not build a separate system for feelings got hurt and body got hurt. It reused the one it already had. Evolution is efficient like that. Why build new wiring when you can just repurpose the pain alarm you already own? And that overlap goes both directions, which is where the temperature research gets its full punch. If social pain borrows the brain's physical pain and threat circuitry, and physical cold is one of the oldest physical threats your body knows how to respond to, then feeling excluded can trigger some of the same downstream physiological responses as feeling cold. Blood vessels near the skin surface constrict slightly, prioritizing your core. Peripheral temperature dips. Your body, quite literally, starts preparing for exposure because for most of your species' existence, social exposure and physical exposure were the same emergency. Here's the part that flips the whole thing into something you can actually use. If exclusion mimics cold, does warmth ease exclusion? Researchers Chen-Bo Zhang and Zhong Leonardelli tested exactly this. In one study, participants who were asked to recall a time they were socially excluded rated the room as physically colder than participants who recalled being included. Same room, same thermostat, different memory, different perceived temperature. In follow-up experiments, people who felt excluded were more likely to prefer warm food and drinks over cold ones, as if their bodies were already trying to compensate. Holding a warm cup of coffee has been shown in related research to make people rate strangers as warmer and more generous. Not just literally warmer, but socially warmer, kinder, more trustworthy. Your brain is quietly running the same math in both directions. Physical warmth nudges social warmth. Social cold nudges physical cold. So think back to that phone, that one gray check mark, that small, stupid, completely real cold feeling in your chest. That was not weakness. That was not you being too sensitive. That was hundreds of thousands of years of ancestors who survived specifically because their bodies refused to stay quiet when the group pulled away. The discomfort is not a malfunction. It's an alarm system doing exactly the job it was built for, just going off in a world that looks nothing like the one it was built in. You are not overreacting to a gray checkmark. You are running ancient software on modern hardware, and the software has not gotten the update. So next time you feel that cold, hollow drop after being left on red, ignored, or excluded, notice it instead of arguing with it. Maybe make a warm drink. It sounds absurd, but your own nervous system might actually thank you for it. And here's a real question for the comments. Have you ever reached for something warm, a coffee, a blanket, a hot shower, right after a bad social moment without even realizing why? Let me know. Your body might have figured out the science before we did.